The lawyer's voice carried evenly across the table, reading names like numbers on a ledger. My father leaned back when his inheritance was announced, $4.1 million already nodding as if this outcome had always belonged to him. My mother's hand found his sleeve when her share followed, $2.6 million, relief softening her posture. My brother smiled before his name was even called. Then mine arrived, June Keller. A pause. $50. The room reacted before I did. My brother's laugh cut through the silence, sharp and unembarrassed. Someone near the window murmured, "Figures." My father's mouth curved into a quiet, satisfied smile, the kind that never bothered to hide its meaning. 2 bills slid across the polished table and stopped just short of my hands. This is a story created by the author of the Revenge Mosaicum channel for educational and inspirational purposes, and it does not portray any specific real-life individual. My brother leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes bright with amusement. Guess Grandpa finally stopped pretending. My mother avoided looking in my direction, smoothing an invisible crease in her jacket. It's not personal, her tone suggested, careful and thin. He had his reasons. My father cleared his throat, already sounding finished with me. This proves something. His voice implied, some people understand responsibility. Some people don't. No one waited for my reaction. The lawyer slid a form toward me. Pen placed precisely at the line meant for acceptance. The room shifted with relief. The uncomfortable part was over. I wrapped my fingers around the bills. They felt heavier than they should have. Under the harsh light, a faint line caught my eye near the serial number, almost nothing. Almost dismissible. My brother pushed back his chair. Well, if that's settled, lunch is on me. No one objected. I stayed seated a moment longer, the laughter fading as they stood. If this moment feels familiar to you, being minimized, dismissed, or quietly erased, stay with me. Some stories only make sense when you listen past the first insult. I folded the money carefully and rose. Whatever this was, it wasn't careless, and it wasn't finished. By the time we reached the hallway, my brother was already recounting the moment to someone on his phone. You should have seen her face, he boasted lightly, like she expected more. My mother slowed her steps just enough to fall beside me. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Her voice pressed softly, the way it always did when she wanted compliance dressed as care. Your grandfather believed in fairness. My father adjusted his cufflinks, eyes forward. He believed in results. The words landed flat. Some people deliver, some people don't. That had always been the story. At family dinners, Ryan spoke over everyone, plans spilling out faster than anyone could interrupt. Praise followed him like gravity. When I stayed quiet, my mother smiled with relief. June's easy. She liked to tell people. She doesn't need much. What she meant was I didn't ask. Once, years ago, I'd tried. I'd like to take a year and travel. The thought had barely left my mouth before my father's fork paused mid-air. That's not practical. End of conversation. Ryan leaned against the elevator wall now, arms crossed, confidence intact. You'll be fine, he offered, generous in victory. Not everyone's meant to manage real money. The doors slid open. My parents stepped inside without waiting for me. I watched the numbers above the door descend. In this family, silence was rewarded as long as it stayed small. Loudness earned inheritance. And being easy, being agreeable kept the peace for everyone except the person practicing it. I followed them in, holding the 2 bills in my pocket, already aware that nothing about this had been accidental. My grandfather's house on Cape Cod grew quieter as his body weakened. Conversations shortened. Visits did the same. My father appeared in the doorway one afternoon, phone still in his hand. Just checking in. The words floated lightly. Already halfway gone. Let me know if you need anything. He kissed the air near my grandfather's cheek and glanced at his watch before leaving. My mother brought flowers the next day, arranging them carefully on the dresser. You look tired. Her concern felt rehearsed. Try to rest. She stayed less than 10 minutes. Ryan came once. He hovered near the door, uncomfortable. You'll bounce back. Encouragement offered without effort. Then the door closed behind him. I stayed. When my grandfather struggled to breathe, I adjusted the pillows until the strain eased. When his eyes tired, I read aloud headlines, market notes, anything familiar. He listened without interruption, fingers tapping faint rhythms against the blanket. One evening, his grip found my wrist, fragile but deliberate. Silence makes people nervous. His voice carried softly. They fill it with noise so they don't have to listen. Later, when the room settled into machines in low light, another truth surfaced. Pressure strips people down. The words arrived slowly. That's when you see who stays. I didn't answer. There was nothing to promise. When he slipped away, it happened the same way he lived without spectacle. I remained by the bed long after, aware that the only person who had ever watched me without expectations was gone. The days after the funeral blurred into controlled gestures and careful distances. At the reception, voices stayed low, but the words were sharp. The Cape Cod property alone must be worth a fortune. Ryan will do something impressive with his share. Each sentence stepped around me as if I were furniture. My father caught my eye once, offering a polite nod before turning back to a discussion about attorneys and timelines. We'll handle everything efficiently. His confidence filled the space. Efficiency had always been his favorite word. That night, I returned alone to my grandfather's house. The rooms felt smaller without him. I sat in the chair by the window, hands folded, breathing slow enough to keep everything contained. The memory of the will reading replayed without permission my name, the pause, the number that followed, $50. I took the 2 bills from my pocket and laid them flat on the table. Under the lamp, I tilted them slightly. Near the serial numbers, faint lines appeared, precise and deliberate. Not damage, not age. His voice surfaced, steady and certain. If you ever need to hide something important, put it where people assume there's nothing. My phone buzzed with a message from my mother. We're worried about you. Let us know when you're ready to talk. I folded the bills carefully and slipped them back into my purse. I wasn't ready to talk. I was ready to look closer. When I pulled out of the driveway, I turned toward the highway instead of home. The memory of those markings guiding my hands on the wheel. The receptionist glanced up when I gave my grandfather's name. Her posture shifted, polite curiosity sharpening into attention. One moment, the promise carried weight. A few minutes later, a man in a tailored jacket appeared at the doorway. June Keller. His voice confirmed rather than asked. I'm Michael Harrington. Please come with me. The office door closed behind us. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. How can I help you today? I placed the 2 bills between us. These were left to me. His eyes lowered. At first, the look held courtesy. Then the courtesy dissolved. He leaned in, turning the paper slightly, studying the edges near the serial numbers. The room went very still. Where did you get these? The question arrived carefully. From Frank Keller, the name landed with quiet certainty. Michael stood, crossed the room, and locked the door. When he returned, something new had entered his expression, respect, edged with caution. These markings aren't random. His words slowed. They're part of a verification sequence your grandfather designed. My pulse tightened. Verification for what? For access. The answer followed evenly. Frank Keller maintained a private trust separate from his estate. Outside probate, invisible unless someone brought proof. He gathered the bills and rose again. If you're willing to proceed, follow me. We walked down a narrow corridor, the kind meant to discourage wandering. A heavy door opened at the end. Inside, steel boxes lined the walls. Michael stopped beside one and glanced back. Only one person was ever meant to open this. The box slid free with a muted sound. Inside lay neatly ordered folders and documents, weighty and deliberate. Approximately $71 million, he explained calmly, as if reading a weather report. On top rested an envelope with my name written in my grandfather's hand. Michael waited until the door closed again before stepping back. "Take your time." His voice lowered, careful not to intrude. I lifted the envelope first. The paper felt familiar, heavier than it should have. My grandfather's handwriting filled the front steady, deliberate, unmistakable. June. Inside. The letter unfolded in neat lines. "If you're reading this, you noticed what others dismissed." My chest tightened. The words continued without apology. "I gave you $50 so you could watch. Watch who laughed. Watch who stayed quiet. Watch who remembered you only when money appeared." My breath caught. Michael remained still, eyes respectfully averted. Money doesn't change people. It removes their excuses. The room felt smaller as I read on. "I didn't leave you this to make you rich. I left it so you'd never have to negotiate your worth again. You stayed when there was nothing to gain. That's why I trusted you." The letter ended simply. "Protect yourself. Build something quiet. And don't make yourself small for anyone." I pressed the paper to my chest, shoulders tightening until the air finally released. Michael cleared his throat gently. "Your grandfather gave us very specific instructions." His tone professional but softened. This trust was structured to be independent, anonymous, and fully under your control. What happens now? My voice surprised me with its steadiness. "We formalize the protections." His response carried certainty. No co-managers, no outside authority. Any challenge to the estate triggers forfeiture of existing inheritances. The words settled slowly, reshaping the room. I nodded once. Then we proceed. Michael gathered the documents, efficiency returning without erasing the respect. He believed pressure revealed everything. He offered quietly. He was right. As the folder closed, the weight shifted not into my hands, but off my shoulders. For the first time since the will reading, the silence around me didn't feel like absence. It felt like space. The paperwork moved quickly once the structure was set. Michael outlined timelines and protections with practiced clarity. Independent trustees, no shared authority, no discretionary access. Each phrase tightened the perimeter. Any legal challenge activates forfeiture. The sentence landed cleanly, irreversible. By the time I stepped outside, my phone was already vibrating. My mother's name filled the screen. I let it pass. A message followed, gentle and rehearsed. "We're just worried about you. Please call." Another arrived minutes later from my father. "We should talk before this gets complicated." It already was. The next call came from my brother, confidence strained by impatience. "You don't need to do this alone." His voice tried to sound generous. "I can help manage things." The offer felt familiar. Help had always meant control. That evening, a knock interrupted the quiet of my apartment. I opened the door to my mother standing alone. Eyes red, hands clasped tightly in front of her. "I raised you better than this." Her disappointment wrapped itself in concern. Family doesn't shut each other out. I stepped aside without invitation. She moved in, scanning the room as if searching for evidence. "Your father thinks you're overwhelmed." The words softened themselves. "We all do. This kind of responsibility can be dangerous." Dangerous for who? The question slipped out before I could stop it. She flinched. "For you." The insistence came quickly. "You've always been sensitive." The door buzzed again. This time, my father and brother waited together in the hallway, expressions aligned. "We're not here to fight." My father's tone carried authority. "We're here to keep things reasonable." I closed the door behind them, the folder already resting on the table. My father didn't sit. Authority never needed a chair. "This doesn't have to get ugly." His voice settled into the room like a decision already made. "We can co-manage. Keep everything balanced." My brother leaned against the counter, confidence slipping just enough to show impatience. "You've never handled pressure well." The remark landed smoothly. "Let us take the weight." My mother folded her hands. "We're thinking about your future." Concern sharpened into warning. This kind of money isolates people. The folder waited between us. I opened it and turned the pages slowly, letting the silence stretch. Independent trust, I noted evenly. No co-managers, no shared authority. My father's jaw tightened. "You're being emotional." "I'm being precise." My brother laughed once. "Brittle. You think you're smarter than all of us now." I looked at him, then at my parents. "I think you laughed when I was handed $50. The room shifted. My mother's breath caught. My father's eyes dropped to the documents. "You planned this." "No." The truth stayed calm. Frank did. I slid the final page forward. "Any challenge to the estate triggers forfeiture of existing inheritances." Silence followed. Dense and absolute. My father reached for his coat. "You'll regret choosing this." They left without another word. The door closed behind them, and for the first time, the quiet didn't feel like punishment. The silence spread quickly after that night. Group messages vanished. Holidays passed without invitations. My phone stayed still, as if it had finally learned my place. A notice arrived months later from an estate administrator, written in language stripped of emotion. My brother's portion had already thinned, ambitious plans dissolving faster than anyone admitted. My parents remained comfortable, but the tone of their world had shifted. Control had been replaced by distance. I folded the letter and set it aside. There was nothing to answer. Life grew quieter in ways that felt deliberate. I kept my routines small. The trust stayed untouched. A wall I didn't have to explain. When people spoke about money, I listened for what followed. When they spoke about family, I listened even harder. One evening, a friend remarked gently, "You could have made it easier on yourself." The truth settled without bitterness. Easy was never safe. I placed the two $50 bills into a plain envelope and sealed it, not as a reminder of loss, but as proof of clarity earned. If this story resonates, stay with it, carry it, and pass it forward in whatever way feels right. Some lessons only matter when they're shared. What my grandfather left me wasn't wealth or revenge. It was permission to choose myself without apology. To understand that love tied to control isn't love at all, and that peace, once claimed, doesn't need defending.